Hello and welcome to Saints Live. I'm Kenzie Benali.
And I'm Steve Forbes.
And after 2 weeks away from the Premier League, we are delighted to be back with you as we build up to the showdown between Southampton and Aston Villa. And keeping us company for this one throughout the evening is former Saints captain Dean Hammond and Premier League reporter Paul Belverstone. Dean, great to see you as always. And Belvers, it's been a while. How are you?
Not bad at all, thank you. Yeah, cheers for having me back. I had to chuck my all of my respect out the door, come begging and pleading to come back. But no, it's good to be here.
It's lovely to see you.
It certainly is, yeah. Got to make the most of this one, Belvers. Don't know when we'll see you again. So we do know that the team news will be coming up in about 15 minutes' time, and that Tino Livramento and Romeo Lavia are the only absentees. Everyone else is available. So given that, Dean, do you expect Ralph to make any changes from the team that lost to Wolves?
I don't really, Steve. I think the manager obviously has the ability to do that within the quality of the squad. He has the numbers to do that. But I think reflecting on the performance against Wolves, I thought it was a pretty good performance. I thought the team were very unlucky to lose the game. I don't think you could argue to say they deserve to win it, but I don't think they deserve to lose it. It was a good away performance. I think potentially I would probably bring Stuart Armstrong into the team. I think in the second half when he came on, he performed exceptionally well. Made a real difference. Brought that craft and creativity to the team and create a few chances. So I could see him probably coming into the team. And then it depends whether you play a Rebo on the left-hand side. Maybe you could bring Mara and playing that kind of number 10 or match him up and play a partnership up front with Shay Adams. But I think defensively, Southampton looked pretty good. Pero came back in and put a solid performance in. So the more games he gets, the better he'll get and build his way into the season. It was good having that natural left back, being left-footed. It gave balance to the team. But I think the team missed Lavia. I think it showed the difference he's made coming into, Lavia, the difference he's made coming into the team. He's been exceptional, and he's a big miss at the moment with the quality that he's produced. His personality as well and his performances has been very good. But I don't think too many changes, maybe one or two. But Ralph always does consider the opposition and sometimes adapts to the opposition. But he also keeps faith in the team that's been performing very well. So one or two changes, Steve, but nothing too major.
Belvers, would love to get your thoughts on that too. Do you think Ralph will stick to the same starting 11 we saw last time out, or will there be changes?
I'd certainly be very surprised if he reverted to a three at the back after the first game and three quarters this season, when it seemed to be the way we were looking for this campaign, and then ditched it, and the team hasn't really looked back since, have they? So I'd have thought four at the back because of that, and also because Aston Villa always play a 4-3-3 as well. So it sort of makes sense on both fronts. There was perhaps a little, well, there was a bit of a murmuring in the press room actually yesterday at the training ground about whether Ainsley Maitland-Niles might come in, and particularly in the middle. He wants to play in the middle of the park. He's played at fullback before, so there was a suggestion of maybe, would he come in at right back? Kyle Walker-Peters going to left back if Pero had any sort of recurrence of his niggles, or maybe he would go in the middle to help out because of that the lack of a Lavia in there at the moment. But then Ralph Hasenhüttl basically knocked that on the head straight away in his press conference, said that he's been very impressed with his quality on the ball, but he's got a lot to learn of how he expects players to play without the ball, the work that they need to do. So, it sounded like, this hugely talented player, we're going to have to wait a while to see him really make an impact, certainly from the start. I think there's a real buzz around a couple more of the youngsters. Samuel Edozie, his 17-minute cameo against Wolves was hugely impressive, not afraid to take players on. And, Saints fans, certainly I was talking to a couple at school pickup this afternoon, and they're drooling over the idea of seeing him in action again. It would be a real bold selection to chuck him in, to chuck Segu Mara back in as well from the start. Those moves would bring the average age of the team down to about 15. I think realistically, though, at the moment, all of these players are sort of going to make impacts from the bench. And, the starting 11 that we've seen last time out against Wolves. I think that was probably what we would have seen last week if the game had gone ahead. I expect to see it again today, I think.
We'll make sure we've got plenty of bibs at the ready if Sam Edozie comes on. Dean, looking back at that 1-0 defeat against Wolves, the goal that Southampton conceded, what happened there? Was it just the fact that Kyle Walker-Peters got caught too far up the pitch?
That was part of it, Steve. Southampton actually had good possession of the ball, as we're going to see. And Kyle Walker-Peters has possession. If you see Shay Adams makes a run in behind and maybe could have played it down the side but tried to play centrally, lose possession, there's a turnover of possession. And Southampton were actually in a good position in terms of 3 centre-halves, 2 deep-line midfield players. But Wolves just counter-attack with pace. Southampton tried to press and missed the press, really, and Wolves played through that. And then Diallo, unfortunately, is unable to stay with his midfield runner. Salisu has to move across to try and cover the runner, which means Bella Kotchap has to move across. And Kyle Walker-Peters is out of position because he's trying to be progressive. He's trying to be in that attacking position and just can't recover in time. And Perraud maybe could have held his position as well, maybe not gone to the ball to force the ball wide and not in between. So it's difficult, Steve, because it happens at such a quick pace. There's some luck to the finish as well, which I think goes against Southampton. But it all came from Southampton being very, very positive, trying to take the game to Wolves. Southampton then trying to press the ball when the possession turned over and just got caught out of position, really. So a little bit of detail, individual detail, but it was just Southampton trying to be positive and they just got caught out of position. Wolves counter-attacked very, very quickly and very, very aggressive and got a little bit lucky with the finish, which happened.
Yeah, Belvers, it seems that all the chat after the game was on that Shay Adams miss. And I've got to say, I felt for him, really, because he's been in such great form, hasn't he? But that's certainly a moment he's going to want to put out of his mind. Yeah,
absolutely. Apparently, it didn't bother him too much. And, you know, his teammates, the manager, they all said, oh, no, you know, it's just good that he got in that position. It's good that he's getting chances. I'm not buying that. He should have knocked this in. This was incredible, wasn't it? He must be kicking him. So it must have kept him awake for 3 nights at least, because I'm pretty sure about this. Wasn't it only last season he scored his first ever headed goal? I think it was against Leicester at St Mary's, which seemed remarkable because, of course, he's not had the longest career. He's still a young man. But to be a striker and to not score with your head for that long seemed incredible. He then followed it. He scored again against Spurs in that wonderful win at White Hart Lane last season. But, you know, I kept being told it looks a lot easier than it is. When you're in those positions, it's very difficult. He knows he should have scored that. I'm sure that, you know, away from the microphones, all those teammates that are telling us that, no, he was fine and, you know, nothing to worry about, they must have given him a huge amount of stick for it. Good-natured stick. And, you know, I think that's what you want. You don't want to be sat there with a towel over your head, sulking for the week until your next opportunity, or 2 weeks because of what happened last week. I think he is in terrific. I've been very impressed with him this season. He's giving defenders a torrid time. I was at the United game, the Chelsea game. He was up against some very experienced defenders, and, you know, they would have come away shattered, bruised. He is a nightmare for defenders at the moment. The manager spoke about it this week, that they've given him a new role this season, and they're all sure that many, many goals are going to come this season. He's already scored a good couple, and many more are to come. I have no doubts.
Well, missed chances or not, Shay Adams has been called up once again to the Scotland squad for their upcoming internationals, and Ralph was asked about him in his press conference.
Shay Adams was named in the latest Scotland squad, of course. I'm interested in how he's been, because without buying a striker at the end of the window, he becomes a really important player still in the team, and he had to get over that miss at Wolves and everyone talking about it afterwards on the television programmes and everything. How's he been in the last 2 weeks responding to all that?
Absolutely good. I think what we have done this season was to find the best role for him, to make him as strong as possible, and therefore he's very thankful for this. But in the end, he knows that he has to make the goals for us. Not only him, but especially him. Yeah, he feels very good in this role he has to play in the moment, I think, and that's the reason why his performances are good, his chances are there, and I'm sure that in the future there will be also coming the goals.
Dean, what have you made of Shay Adams' start to the season then?
Like Paul just mentioned, Kenzie, I think he's been excellent. He really has. Didn't start the season against Tottenham, but scored 2 wonderful goals against Leicester. 2 brilliant finishes, very, very instinctive finishes, and very much Shay Adams goals. But apart from that, he's been fantastic. I think he was absolutely unbelievable against Chelsea. Paul mentioning it, he bullied the Chelsea defence. If you look at the Leeds game, he had 2 involvements in the 2 goals. He played a lovely ball around the corner to Adam Armstrong. He held the ball up brilliant to get the ball to Mara, who then put that wonderful pass in for Cole Walker-Peters. He looks physically fit. He really, really does. He looks like mentally he's in a good place. The manager spoke about a new role that he's taken on. I think that role comes with responsibility as well. He's the main man. I think he plays that central role on his own so well. And he does so much for the team as well. And I think he can score more goals, definitely, Shay. You look at the opportunity he had against Wolves where he should score. There's no getting away from that. The opportunity he had where he hit the crossbar with his head as well, as we're just about to see, probably feels as though he should score there, but it's a more difficult opportunity. But he's always there, Shay. He always gets chances to score. So it's more of his conversion rate. But in terms of the start he's had this season, 4 goals in all competitions. It's good for him, and he looks confident. And I think he can definitely get double figures this season. And he expect that of himself. He's an international again, so he's playing a variety of levels against different opposition, which will improve him as a player. He's getting older. He's still a young man, like Paul mentioned previously. So I think he's had a very, very good start to the season. He looks like he's hungry to impress and hungry to improve as a player. And I can see him scoring a lot more goals this season.
Now, last season's trip to Villa Park ended in a 4-0 defeat for Southampton, and it ended up being a bit of a turning point in the season because Saints had only lost 1 of their previous 13 games, but were humbled that night, Paul. What do they have to do tonight to make sure that doesn't happen again?
I remember I did that game with you guys. It was a very short post-match chat, wasn't it? Not much positivity coming out of that one at all. I think we saw Philippe Coutinho certainly at his best since he'd been at Liverpool that day. Looked at the steal of the season. They'd got him for, well, it seemed on the cheap because he was pulling the strings that night. He was absolutely tremendous. I think, are you trying to get people to switch off by showing all of these clips? This was really not a game that we wanted to remember at all. It just came at a bad time in the sense that I think the West Ham FA Cup game had come just 3 days before, and the squad was suffering with a lot of injuries. It didn't have that depth where Ralph seemed confident enough to shake things up too much. He had made changes for the FA Cup game, but then they didn't really have enough in the squad at that time to fight on 2 fronts. And the team looked a bit tired, but also you can't underestimate the impact goals have and the timing of goals. Villa started very strongly. They went 1-0 up in the first 10 minutes. Then they doubled that lead a few seconds before half time, I think it was. So that has a big impact as well. And then Saints looking to start well in the second half. Again, only 5 minutes after the break, it's 3. And all of those things really knock the wind out of your sails. But Villa showed they've got great quality in their squad that day, in their team. All of the players were on it. It stung a bit more to see Danny Ings on the score sheet as well after his departure a few months earlier. But each of the games at Villa Park over the last 3 seasons since they returned to the Premier League have been peculiar. We had Saints winning 3-1 a couple of seasons ago, a tremendous performance that time. Then the following year was 4-0 up, absolutely coasting, and then a crazy last few minutes made it look very tight, 4-3. And then last year, it was the worst away performance of the season, surely. So, they're going to need to be on it from the start. They know there's a lot of quality in the Villa lineup. They need to keep the real dangerous players quiet, but also play their own game, impress themselves on the game, and and put their own stamp on it and force Villa into a few problems, because their confidence is going to be a bit fragile.
Yes, indeed. Well, we can bring you the starting 11 now that will face Aston Villa this evening. Just the one change, Joe Aribo dropping to the bench, Moussa Djenepo coming into that starting lineup. So let's take a look through that team then, shall we, in full. In goal, it's Gavin Bazunu. The back four, Roman Perraud, Mohamed Salisu, Armel Bella-Kotchap and Carl Walker-Peters. In the middle of the park are captain James Ward-Prowse, Ibrahima Diallo and Moi Elianusi. Then completing that lineup is Moussa Djenepo, Adam Armstrong and Shay Adams. The Saints substitutes then are as follows. It's Alex McCarthy, Lianco, Duje Salaseta-Sarr, who is in the matchday squad for the first time, Juan Larios, Stuart Armstrong, Joe Aribo, Theo Walcott, Samuel Adozi and Sekou Mara. So let's come to you first then, Belvers, for your thoughts on that starting 11. Do you think they can do the business against Aston Villa tonight?
Oh, absolutely. I'm hugely impressed by the big refresh that we've seen this summer. Looking forward to seeing Salaseta-Sarr when he does make his debut. Maybe it's his birthday tomorrow, so maybe he will get a few minutes tonight, although you don't tend to bring on a centre-back in games unless there's an injury. Mentioned the substitutes, Dozy and so on. You know, I think there's a real buzz around and a real reason to be excited about Saints at the moment. And I think it's very telling that, by my calculations, only 4 of that starting 11 played in this game that we just talked about, the 4-0 at Villa Park, which was only 6 months ago. So, you know, there has been a huge change at Saints over the past couple of, well, only the last month, hasn't it? So I think it's going to be a completely different performance to 6 months ago. And yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's certainly a new look side, isn't it, Dean? What do you make of this starting lineup?
As we expected, really, Kenzie. Not surprised, but I suppose a little bit surprised that Djenepo's come into the team. But again, has been very, very good at the start of the season, playing in that left-back role. We were playing more in an attacking position tonight. But a strong team, a positive team that can cause Aston Villa problems. Defensively, a strong team as well. So I'm looking forward to it. Elianusi may be playing a little bit more central. And he can cause problems. The timing of his runs from midfield are very, very good. He has that energy in the middle of midfield as well, which is important. So yeah, positive selection as we expected, and hopefully the Southampton can continue their form, because the performances this season have been very, very good. The results have been good as well. You know, you look at it, I think if we could have got a point against Wolves, it would have been a superb start to the season. So looking forward to this game, and yeah, good selection from the manager so far.
Well, let's see if the Southampton fans are as positive as you, Dean, as we head to the comments to see what the people watching at home have had to say. Paul Stewart Gallery on Twitter says, we're not going to lose tonight, relax. Also, Steve Launchbury says, a clean sheet would be nice, slightly less confident from Steve. Richard Hall says he'd be happy with a draw at Villa Park. We've also got Peter saying, got a good feeling about this game. He thinks it's going to be 3-2 to Southampton tonight. Alex Phillips on YouTube has said 3-1 to the Saints, with Aribo, Adozi and Ward-Prowse to score. Julian Patel said so. We're all in for a Saints 9-0 win tonight, Kenzie.
Oh, well, I wouldn't say no to that.
Do you share that opinion?
Why not?
Yeah. And then Ryan Ackland has said he's delighted that Moussa Djenepo has signed a new contract, and he's also sent another message in saying it's his birthday on Sunday, so a win today would be a lovely early birthday present.
Happy birthday.
Paul, Armel Bella-Kotchap, he starts again tonight. Very impressive start to the season for him, and a first call up to the Germany senior squad.
Yeah, you don't get one of those, especially when you're 20, unless you're very, very good. He's been a monster. You know, I remember when players were either giants or they were quick. He's both. He's enormous and he's so speedy, and he clearly loves a one-on-one battle. He doesn't care who he's up against. He's got the better of the likes of Vardy, Rashford, Havertz, Sterling. He's given them all a torrid time. He's tremendous to watch. He likes a shot as well. I'm sure a goal is coming in the not too distant future. I think I read that he's had 7 shots in 5 games. As a young centre-back, that's not bad going. But, you know, his main role is defending, of course, and he looks fantastic at the back. shouldn't be the biggest surprise. He played for Germany under 18s when he was just 16, and there were some headlines when at his previous club Bochum they played Bayern in the German Cup. He marked Serge Gnabry and later on Robert Lewandowski out of the game, even though Bayern did go on to win that game. He got huge rave reviews that day. He is going to make mistakes this season because he is only 20 years old. But the way he started, he looks absolutely fantastic. He's only going to get better. I feel we've probably gone back in time 2 years when he's only played 5 games and already he's being linked with a move to Liverpool. In fact, today there were even stories suggesting Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, some of the European giants are looking at him as well because they see great potential in him. Fair play to the scouting department at St Mary's because they've spotted someone really quite exciting here. And I think that partnership with Mohamed Salisu is very good as well. I'm no expert by any stretch in terms of expected goals and that strange sort of statistic that floats around so much these days. But apparently those two together in the 4 games they've been Saints partnership at the back, the expected goals against Southampton have only been about 3.5. And that's when they've faced Chelsea and Manchester United and so on. Only Arsenal and Tottenham have a better expected goals against record in those 4 games. So, you know, it's a wonderful start. Couldn't ask for more. Very excited to see how he goes for the rest of the season.
Yeah, he's such an exciting player, isn't he? And Dean, it was more good news for Saints fans this week as Moussa Djenepo put pen to paper and signed a new contract. What's your reaction to that, and what have you made of his performances so far this season?
I mean, in terms of this season, Kenzie, he's been fantastic. You know, he's been asked to play in a position that's not natural to him in terms of that left wing back role, but he's been very, very good. You know, the 3-year contract he signed, I think he's 24 now, so it takes him through to 27, which means he'll be coming into the prime of his career. He's got real natural ability, as we're seeing from the highlights here. He scores some fantastic individual goals. I think we can see more of that, if I'm honest. I think there's some frustrations at times with him. But he's almost come that little bit of a utility player, where he's had to play in different positions. But his commitment to the team has been fantastic. It looks like the manager has got real trust in him. His teammates are getting more and more trust in him, which is brilliant. And he has that unpredictability about him. When he throws them step overs around the box, when he commits people, when he takes people on, it's fantastic to watch. And I suppose the only thing you'd like to see it a little bit more and a bit more consistent, but he's still a young man. He's still learning. But I think it's very, very good business from the football club. He's an exciting player and he brings something different. So if he's not starting, if he's coming on from the bench, he can make an impact and he can make things happen, which you need those type of players in your team, in your squad, if you're going to win football matches. So I think he would like to add a few more assists to his game, a few more goals, but that can definitely come. So, yeah, clever from the football club to sign him up on a long-term deal.
Now, one player that has left the club since our last show is Nathan Redmond. He was here since 2016. Paul, how would you sum up Nathan's time as a Saint?
I think something struck me when Dean was talking. Well, he was ignoring the heckles in his own house. And he was talking about Moussa Djenepo being, you know, you'd like to see more of that excitement and the end product on a more consistent basis. And I think Nathan Redmond suffered from being a little bit inconsistent, but also a player who could produce goals like that. Fans naturally want to see it more and more. Come on, keep cutting inside, keep finding the top corner. And because he didn't manage that very often, I think he only managed something like 25, 30 goals in a good couple of 100 games. I mean, I love this one against Huddersfield. It's not quite top corner, but connects with it so well after sending a couple of defenders onto their backsides. You know, you kind of want more than if you add in his assists as well. He was only sort of 1 goal involvement in every 4 or 5 games. So, you know, for a time, he was a bit of a scapegoat. You know, he was one that when things weren't going well, the fans did sort of seem to single him out a little bit. But one of the reasons for that, I think, is because he was someone who would take risks for the good of the team, because if they came off, they would often result in a chance. He would take on defenders. He would try things that that other players perhaps wouldn't. And when it comes off, it is magical. But of course, when it doesn't, then you are running that risk of looking foolish and perhaps putting your team in trouble at the other end. I liked him. I spoke to him many times. I like the fact that he had a Belver's tribute haircut in the end as well, after silly mohawks and all sorts early on. I always thought there was one time in the middle of his 6-year spell, he talked about what good shape he was in, having gone on pre-season. He'd given himself an extra training regime. He'd spent the summer in Los Angeles, I think it was. He came back super fit. And also he said he'd sorted out a few demons in his own head. And he was on terrific form. I think that was the 2018-19 season. But even then, never managed to get double figures of goals. And I think, there was another level where if he could have just broken through that little glass ceiling, he could have been something really special. As it was just one of those where when what he did worked, it was tremendous. There were perhaps too many times when it didn't work. But overall, I think a very successful 6-year spell should be remembered very, very fondly. He clearly remembers his time very fondly, given that epic Instagram post that he put out, thanking the fans for everything and everyone else involved with the club when he was here. So I overall a win, I think.
Yeah, that was a really nice social media post indeed, wasn't it? Well, Dean, it'd be great to get your thoughts on the array of players that can play in those wide attacking areas, because even despite Nathan's departure, there are plenty of them, isn't there? Samuel Dozie being one of them. I mean, he looked fantastic off the bench, didn't he, against Wolves? Just how excited are you to see more of him in action?
Very excited, Kenzie. I think the 17 minutes he had against Wolves was just a little glimpse of what a player he can be. His dribbling ability looked fantastic. Very, very brave in possession. Was happy to commit players, and looks like a real talent. You can see him as 19 years of age, I think. So lots of development in him, but lots of a natural ability. I love that bit there where he stops it and waits for the defender to come to him and then commits him. And then there's other moments where he slows it down. He gets a pass. He gets himself back into position and then moves again. So there's a little bit of maturity for such a young player as well, but he brings that enthusiasm. So really excited about him as a player. I'm sure the manager will take his time with him and bring him in off the bench and not expect too much of him. But he looks like he can make things happen from nowhere. And he has that pace and ability that he can get you up the pitch, so he can travel with the ball for 20, 30, 40 yards, which is so important whether you're playing counter-attacking football or you're taking the game to the opposition. This one where he commits and gets into the box is brilliant. And he's always looking to do that, to make something happen, to get into the box as quickly as he can. So, yeah, he looks like a brilliant sign, and I'm really excited to see how he develops.
Dean, I think you might have to go and check on your puppy. Might be needing the dinner. Maybe.
No, he's like Paul said, he's heckling me.
Maybe move him to the east wing of the house. Paul, let's look at Villa because they're in 17th on just 4 points. How would you assess the start to their season? Because tonight seems like a game that they really need to win.
Oh, I think they'll be enormously disappointed. They'll be very pleased with the last outing against Manchester City. They showed that the champions can be got at, you can cause them problems. It was a tremendous draw they managed, their last home game as well. They had good spells against Arsenal before that as well. But ultimately, they have made some big investments over the past 12, 18 months. And they seem to have brought in a lot of players around the age of 30, which suggests they expect success now. They expect things to click, and they don't expect to be 17th for long. They're not expecting a relegation scrap. They're very much targeting something at the other end of the table. So, I think there's clearly a bit of pressure on there. Steven Gerrard mentioned it in his press conference yesterday, saying that the heat is on. He's feeling it. He's having to draw on his experiences where he's gone through difficult spells at Rangers as a manager, but also Liverpool as a player, and times when they've been on very poor runs, both personally, form-wise, and team results as well. and he's having to see what he can do to get through this spell. I think it is a big game tonight. I think they've been quite shrewd. The program notes the manager's written have drawn on the what's going on in the country at the moment, pointing to the fact that Prince William is a Villa fan by all accounts. So he claimed that, you know, they've got this big connection with the royal family. So he hopes everyone will get behind all of the sort of the tributes at the start of the game, and then, you know, feed that into a big atmosphere at the start as well. So, you know, Saints have got to get through that, impose themselves, as I said earlier, and then, you know, I think Villa are going to be a tricky opponent. Of course, they've got to. It's not just Steven Gerrard who will be hungry for the win as well. Philippe Coutinho, we've talked about him already. He's been left out of the Brazil squad this week, the first time in about a year. And of course, the World Cup is just around the corner, so he'll be hurt by that. Gerrard has said that he's been the best player in training by far this week. He's got a point to prove. That's something to be very wary of. I think Saints can overcome all that, but they need to be shrewd to start with.
Well, Belver's mentioning Coutinho there. Dean, let's talk about him, because he caused Southampton all sorts of problems in our last visit to Villa Park last season. Just how impressive was that performance from him? And what do Southampton need to do to keep him quiet tonight?
Well, it was an exceptional performance. It was Philippe Coutinho at his best, and he's an exceptional player when you watch him. Technically brilliant, has fantastic awareness, and makes things happen. And he's a joy to watch. Unfortunately, he was brilliant against Southampton on this occasion. Probably should have scored one or two or three goals. Had real opportunities, but he just made Aston Villa tick on the day. And he looked like a world-class player, the player he was when he was at Liverpool. And he looked, like Paul mentioned it, a snip, a bargain for Aston Villa. But it's just, you know, his movement and his timeless movement and his composure in this situation when he goes through should score, really, for a player of his quality. But it's just his understanding of the game. He has real football intelligence, I would say, and he's an exciting player to watch. The run here and the assist is unbelievable. The awareness that, you know, you'd think some players would shoot there, but he's just, you know, my teammate's in a better position. He gets the assist. So a brilliant player. So when he's at his best, he's very, very dangerous. He hasn't quite hit those heights yet this season. I don't know what that is, whether he's physically fit enough, whether he's struggling because the team are struggling for a bit of form. But when he's at his best, he's very, very difficult, and he's still one of the best players in the world. And, you know, if he's on form, it's difficult. So you have to get around him, not allow him time. Don't allow him to get his head up. Put a bit of pressure on when he has possession of the ball and stay close to him. So I'm sure Southampton will be trying to do that tonight and be very aware of his ability. But he's an important player for Aston Villa. And if he performs, they have every chance of getting a result in any game.
Well, let's hope he doesn't tonight, eh? And before we come to both of you for your score predictions and final thoughts on the match, let's get a final say from all the fans watching at home. Jay Hack on YouTube has said, hopefully a Saints win tonight, kick off the weekend right, and Carl Walker-Peters can prove Southgate wrong. Obviously, as he didn't get in the latest England squad. Red and White says the lineup looks good to me. It's crazy too. This is the first season in a while. I look at our bench and think it looks very strong. Daniel Martinez says, best of luck to us, let's win it. He'll be watching from Las Vegas. Also, nice. Yeah, very nice. Hopefully he's got 100 on red tonight. Also, Adizane has said on Facebook, we've won against stronger opponents, we can do it again, come on Saints. Alex Phillips has said, thanks for Saints Live, he really likes watching it, so you're more than welcome there, Alex. Chris Wentz says, great show as always, come on you Reds, all out from sunny Spain. And a final one from Ryan Ackland, who says, Dean's puppy is hungry for a Southampton win.
As are we. Well, we certainly share the thoughts there of Dean's lovely puppy. Belvers, we're going to come to you first then for your score prediction tonight, seeing as though it's your first time joining us this season. Which way do you see this one going, and what are your final thoughts ahead of kickoff?
I reckon the long-awaited clean sheet is coming tonight. I think I do like the back five with the goalkeeper Bazzuno in there as well. Richard Hall, in your last lot of comments, said, I'd be happy with a draw. Shame on you, Richard Hall. It's going to be a Saints win tonight. It's going to be 2-0, Shea Adams, and then a screamer from Bella Kotchap.
Wow, okay, that was a pretty
Not
confident
holding
prediction.
back, yeah.
I love Belver's predictions because you always say it with such conviction. It's like you've got a crystal ball. All right, there you go.
Never right.
That's true. Maybe today is the day. Dean, what's your response to that one then, and your score prediction, please?
Well, I believe Paul after his prediction, but no, I think this is a game that Southampton can win tonight. I really, really do. I think there's some pressure building at Aston Villa, even though they've come off a good team performance against Man City and got a very valuable result there. But there's an expectation at Aston Villa this season. They haven't quite been able to match that really so far. So I think, yeah, this could be a night for clean sheet. I agree with Paul. And Southampton have come close on a few occasions and been very impressed with them defensively. So I'm going to go for a close 1-0 win for Southampton tonight.
All right, good stuff. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for your score predictions and joining us on Saints Live once again. Well, 45 minutes to go until kick-off as Southampton look to get back to winning ways on a Friday night under the lights at Villa Park. Make sure to join us after the game on the final whistle, where we'll all be back and Dean and Paul will be giving us their post-match reaction and analysis. So enjoy the game and we'll see you then.
Bye for now.